Men.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here with you tonight at Sanga Courts. My name is Peter Igaga. As usual, I'm the boldest man in Kampala. It doesn't get any bolder than this because we are going to steer into deep waters where marriage is concerned. Now, are you a man out there who wants to get into business with his wife? You need to sit and don't move anywhere. And neither should your wife, because this show is also for her. Now, we are lucky to have Innocent, actually Dr. Innocent Nahabwe, on the show with us. You're a doctor, you're an entrepreneur. At one point, you were a practicing journalist. You're so many things.
We are all looking for money. When it shows up,
yeah, it is where we go.
Where it goes is where we go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, you're also a coach. You're into business. You're technically into business with your wife. First question I have, because I've heard so much doom. Everybody says, whatever you do, don't get into business with your wife. But just before we get into that, first and foremost, should a man even get into business anyway? Is it one of those rites of passage that a man must do?
Thanks, Peter. I think that we need to think through why business.
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki, in many of his books, he talks about the ESBI, the left side of the quadrant, 4 ways in which you can earn money. Employment, you have a boss. Self-employment, which sometimes we call business, like consultancy, you just have many bosses. The more successful you are, is the more doom you have.
Yes.
And when you're self-employed, if you have too much work, it kills you. If you have no work, it kills you. And then you go to the right-hand side where you have business. You employ people, you have processes, you have people who are running them, basically systems that actually bring you money. So you're multiplying yourself through other people. And those ventures usually are more lucrative than self-employment or employment. And then there's investment. So, for example, Innocent has a business. He allows us to invest. He's credible. He gives you some dividends. There's one of the ventures that we invested in some time back, and last year they gave us some really good dividends. So the thing is that I think business is important, but it's not as easy as what it looks like. Uganda is, I think, the second most entrepreneurial country in the world after Peru. But as fast as we start the businesses is almost as fast as they close.
Yeah.
So to find a credible entrepreneur with a business that has survived 5 years, 10 years, those guys really are good and they know their stuff. And I'm glad that we have someone here who is a credible business person in the country. Speaking about doing business with my spouse, I think that it depends on whether they have strength they bring to the table or not. In part of what we do, my wife is very strong at it, and we work together in that respect. I don't think that we should not absolutely work with our family, because also there is the unfortunate scenarios that come up where someone runs business and they have this divide of I don't work with family. And then strangers know everything about your business, and something unfortunate happens to you. Maybe you pass or you're incapacitated. And guess who takes everything that you've been working for? The strangers you trusted. I think that's so. I feel like we need to avoid a ditch to ditch thinking.
Yeah.
I think that we need to be open to working with family with rules. And able to fire them without batting an eyelid.
But it's not that simple, you know that.
It's not,
especially
but you do it. I
I
have, in my coaching experience, I've worked with clients who have had to fire siblings or spouses. In fact, there is a famous pastor couple who are running a business. In this case, the lady was the CEO, and the guy was not. She fired him, and the business grew. So, here's the thing. You need to have the stomach to fire anyone, to safeguard the business, because home business is not business, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think that it helps where there is advantage in family knowing what's going on and can be able to contribute. I think there's a space for that. Yeah. But in many cases, I think where it's sustainable is to, at the very least, involve family at director level. Sometimes where you don't want them in the mix, but at least they know what's going on, what the investments are like, what the shares are like, so that in case anything happens, they're not left hanging dry. So I just, my counsel would be that we avoid the ditch to ditch thinking. Say never work with family. I don't think that's healthy. But then say that you must work with family no matter who they are and whatever they are doing, and it's ruining the business. I also don't agree. So I kind of feel we need to be in the middle.
Men and women working together already is a bit of a mix. Now it gets even more, the mix gets more, it gets thicker when it's husband and wife, because it's very hard to separate who you are at home and who you are at work. Now, would you encourage men to get into business with their spouses?
Peter, it's actually one of the reasons most family businesses will end up struggling to scale. Because when you have two principles, in any business, you need to have a head. Somebody who gives strategic direction, somebody whose word essentially gives the direction where the business is going.
Yeah.
When you work with your wife, often the head really keeps tipping. And you say this, tell the workers, we are going to this way you're going. And the woman will come and tell them, no, we are doing this way.
Yeah.
Now you go home and it becomes trouble. People have been able to do it successfully. But those are the exceptions. The majority, it's very difficult to, because when you're talking about relationships, you're talking about emotions.
Yes.
You're talking about feelings. You're talking about people who are being influenced by even a word is not exactly what it is seen to mean. Yet in business, you want to be logical. It's numbers, it's figures, it's strategy.
Yeah.
It's not, because sometimes you'll say, I think we should hire this one. She's really a bright person. She would bring us numbers. You're like, I saw you looking at her bum the other day. so now you're like, boss, are we looking at a good salesperson? Are we looking?
Yeah.
No, I saw you looking at her bum. By the way, you don't think I'm blind. I saw you, and then to get you into problems. It then gets complicated even worse, because how then do you keep it very formal, very official? Chris was talking about how many businesses actually die. Most businesses here don't make their first anniversary.
Yes.
Mostly, the biggest problem is most people are doing business because they have been told, that business works. They have no knowledge about it, nothing. Then once they start it, there's no separation of resources for the business and resources for personal use. So when you see the money in the safe, essentially it looks like all that money
is ours.
Is our money. Yeah. And usually for the woman, because usually that's what it is, we have more women now making money, but usually it's going to be the man who's probably financing this. And for the woman, once the money is there, you're like, man, I saw a dress the other day. I'll pick some. Now, how do you come and say, madam, you picked some money? Yeah. It becomes very, 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 very difficult. So in the end, you'll find you can actually easily lose both.
Yes.
You can lose both the business
and the marriage.
And it happens. So my belief is the reason people should do business is for the sake of doing business. Is for the sake of partnerships. And I believe in partnerships, where people come with different competencies to do a business for the single purpose of making money.
Yes.
Now, you find I'm an accountant, I can be able to deal with numbers, I can be able to balance the books, etc. And then for you, you are good at meeting people, you're talking to people, so you're good at marketing and meeting people, and maybe you're good at leadership.
Yes.
That way, you come together and you say you will take care of the numbers, I'll take care of bringing in the business. And the roles are clear. You probably have shareholder agreements where all these things are documented. How is the leadership handled? When we make money, how do we share it?
Yes.
How much is my take home every month? It's not like when I make money, I just keep. Now, and you have all these structures, maybe a board, maybe meetings. How does this happen properly when you have a wife? And because sometimes the women will tell you eventually the men will be so much in love and the men will have probably moved on. Now, what happens when you move on? Do you move on also with the business?
Yeah.
Sometimes you now become like brother and sister. So that's the situation. So how does that affect the business? So it is very risky. I actually, and some people essentially force it. They say, I'll start for your business. And some of us are not businessmen by nature, business women. We just don't do business. Just because I'm married to you and for you I do business doesn't mean I also be a business. So you kind of complicate it by mixing these two.
Yes.
Usually both of them suffer. Usually. There are exceptions, and I'm happy that for him it is working. But for the majority of the people, the emotions will come in, and then you're having a meeting, and then you go home. It is exactly like taking a meeting from the office to your you don't know where to separate them, and then you quarrel last night. You come, and the person sometimes cannot beat you, so they decide to make everybody's life hard at work. And you are seeing it, and then you don't know what to do about it. So it can be very complicated.
Yeah, Stefan, when you're dealing with human beings, and it's no secret that women are more emotional human beings than men are, and sometimes those emotions make them a little more, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, a little more unreasonable. Now, Innocent has hit on something very interesting, two things actually, which I find very interesting. First of all, not every single one of us can do business. Yes. And it's fine. Sometimes we're under a lot of pressure saying everybody must do a business. No. I believe do a business because you can do it and you know what you're doing. You do your research, you know where the opportunity is and you see it. Then number two, when you're involving your spouse, and usually before the money comes in, it's fine. Then the money starts coming in, so do many ideas. Women get a lot of advice from other women. And sometimes they're told if he's not spending that money on you, he's spending it on somebody else. Would you advise men to get into business with their wives?
I'll answer that question by rebuttaling it with another question.
Yeah.
Different companies around the world have individuals. You have situations where there are emotions that are involved.
Yeah.
Like, there's a coworker that is fighting with another coworker. That's an instance, that's a situation where emotions are involved, right? But the company still works. But I find this question a bit disingenuous. The reason why I say that is because people in marriage are a unit. So essentially, they have a common goal. So they should get into business together because the common goal are their children. The common goal is the longevity of the relationship. So why shouldn't they get into business together? The issue are the mechanics that surround how they do this. And in any organization, there is a head, there is a HR, there is a finance, and they can sit there and have these conversations. The problem that we have right now is that the semantics are, the guy has always been the provider. Now we have women who are making money and they do not know how to meet in between. And I think that's the issue.
Well, I'll tell you, that's an interesting look at it, but it almost sounds idealistic. Okay. And
on the ground.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because you see, now we cannot keep out the emotional bit of it. And just like in any marriage, there are good days and there are bad days. In business, there are good days and there are bad days. How then do you separate church from state? Because at some point, you're going to have to get mixed.
Peter, can I chime in?
Yeah.
Briefly, and maybe I'll say something a little more on this. I think that the same way you must separate personal resources from the business resources, is the same way you must separate the home from the business. And here is why. If your wife, for example, like Innocent was saying, is the best finance and accounts person, finance and management person that you can ever get within 3,000 miles, for crying out loud, use her help. You know? So the issue usually is leadership. It's the same issue at home. Because in marriage, you still have families where the woman is not allowing that you are the head. You say this, she says that, you say this, she says that,
True.
you know? So the issues are the same, whether it's at home or at work, depending on the kind of people that are in the marriage.
Yeah.
Right? In the same way, in the workspace, it has to be clear. Like the example I gave you of this couple, where they were clear, it's the lady who is the CEO. She was the one driving the thing. I'll give you an example. My wife, under Worship Harvest Ministries, is the founding principal for Harvest International School. She started it and grew it for 8 years. And by the time she handed it over, it was a profitable venture. She's really, really, really good with education and the businesses in education, making them profitable, organizing schools and that. She's really, really good.
Yeah.
All right? When we were starting, at the point we were talking to shareholders, bringing them on board, setting up stuff like that, the entrepreneur startup type of thing, where I have strengths, I was leaning in. It almost felt like, so who is the principal here? All right. But it's a startup. We knew who the leader is, so you're procuring things, you're talking to parents, bringing the first crop on board and stuff like that. I was very present. But do you know what happened? As the school settled, I pulled out to a point that I was not in the picture at all. All right. Yeah. So just knowing the roles. So it's actually possible to separate. And so the separation can be either that you're both in the business and the roles are different, or it can be that you do that thing of, this is your business, that's my business. In this one, I am the head. In that one, I'm the head. Different models, but it works.
We do need to go into a break. We are here at Sangha Courts having a discussion about business. Do you get into business with your spouse? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Men. Men.
Welcome back from the break. We are here at Sangha Courts having a discussion about spouses and business. Now, Innocent, Chris has painted a very rosy picture when everybody understands what they're supposed to do and they follow the rules. Same thing to what Stefan is saying. During the break, Stefan brought in another element, which are called relatives. Sometimes, and usually, and I'm not saying it is that way, but usually, women are more keen to bring their relatives.
Facts.
Okay. They're usually more keen to bring their relatives to the home or than men are. Now, the moment she starts bringing her relatives, is that something you should accept? Or do you say they're going to go through the interview process and all that stuff? Because you can see maybe she has a brother who's there doing absolutely nothing and she's been trying to get him a job. The guy can't get a job. Now she's seeing an opportunity and saying, why are we hiring other people yet the guy can come in? Now he comes in, he knows this is his sister. You are his brother-in-law. He's more likely to listen to his sister than to you.
That's true. And actually, in my book, I was very clear. I learned the hard way that...
but he did write a book.
Yeah, that it is very difficult when you have relatives within the business setting. Like I said, the business of serious business is serious business. When you bring in other considerations, because even at the interview, if this is your brother-in-law, at the interview, are you going to consider all of the things you're actually going to look into? And to avoid those kind of mistakes, the best thing is just don't. Because essentially, you're biased, and as such, you should be able to excuse yourself. It's good to help these relatives from far. If you can get the medicine. Actually, in many occasions, what we do is I give my relative to somebody else. I also take their relative in, and the conditions are, if he annoys you, fire him. Also, this one, if anything happens, we'll be able to fire them. I saw this, and we have been doing business from 2007. And along the way, I saw the difference between us who agreed not to hire relatives and the situation from my first employer, the Red Pepper. And so 5 directors, each one bring in their relatives. So eventually, you have maybe, so this one brings a brother, you're like, you brought a brother, then you also bring a sister. And they're like, you brought a sister, then you also bring my cousin. They are doing badly, we can have them in the factory. Then the other one says, you promote this one to manager, you're like, now mine. Now you have then slowly having small cliques of the group of this one against the group of the other one. Then when they are wives, that's also another big challenge of this one came with a nice necklace today. Did they steal money? I mean, he works in accounts. Did they steal money? What is going on? So eventually people have meetings at home and they come to the meeting now and they're telling you, we agreed. You're like, when did we actually agree to this? So eventually you find you're essentially dealing with so many family issues.
Yes, rather than
dealing with business. You're like, by the way, your brother comes late. I mean, if it was an employee, you would just say, you come late. But now I'm coming to Peter saying, by the way, your brother comes late. Then I'm like, but also your sister came late and also stole some money. So it becomes terribly, terribly complicated. The best thing is, if you keep them away, because you're trying to give them a livelihood, and their being in the company stands in the way of you doing things logically and as the way they should be doing as by the book. So if we're all working towards having business and making sure the business survives and thrives, why then are you struggling to make sure to put in things which are going to put it down? But that becomes a challenge. Just a quick one. Now, to Chris's point of, strangers will come and you are and take over the business, and this is family business, and the people who know about the business are all the strangers. We still have that big challenge of assuming that our children and wives and care or interested in the businesses we do. Sometimes we are forcing them. They're also being forced by society, saying, the man has told me to go there.
But what's wrong with that?
How can I fail? So, some of these people are not even interested in the business we are doing.
That's true.
You're forcing them there. They have their own lives to live. So for a business should be able to grow as a business. Eventually, if they are interested, they can buy shares and join in as shareholders, but much later. And that can be dealt with in the succession planning. In your shareholder agreements, you say, okay, how do children or heirs come into the business? How does it get handled? He was saying, what if when I die, we will only die once. We live for a long time. We only die once. So we shouldn't be worried that when I die, when you die, you have died. And things will sort themselves out.
Incidentally, the reason why I mentioned that is that there's been scenarios where people haven't put that side of the business in order, right? And because they really wanted a hard stop on no relatives, no family, all right? And so they pass on, and there is no one in the family who knows anything about what they're doing. And lots of resources, because usually when we do business and that kind of thing, you have a mind that you're laying up a better future for your people. I hope that your businesses will benefit some of your children and even further. I think that that's the heart, usually, isn't it? Right? So, but the thing is that just like most, I was going to generalize. I'm sorry. I know many men who have not written a will, right? Because somehow there is a fear of, if you write a will, you are jinxing yourself. Are you going to die soon and that kind of thing?
Yes.
I mean, we find people, they pass on, there's all this stuff, property, but there's no will. And then they leave a mess, okay? We all are in families in Uganda. This stuff has happened. We know it, right? But in the same sense, Innocent, I really love that you've talked about succession planning. But in most families and most businesses which are owned by individuals, there is no succession plan. I can't mention names, but there's a big insurance company where someone was a serious shareholder and they died in an accident, and the co-shareholders basically took over the business, and this person's kids grew up like paupers. And it's a successful business. I know a family where a family business, one of the best in the sector right now, where the husband is clearly the managing director and the wife is the general manager. And there's a separation of roles, and it works. When it comes to work, what the MD says
Goes.
Right? So here's what I want us to at least to agree on. I think that we all must make the best choices with what we have to deal with. Because if you have a cantankerous spouse whose idea is to buy clothes and all those things that you're talking about, then you're not in the business. You can't have them in the mix, right? But then there are other people, like, I forget the name of the company. This guy and his wife own a huge construction business in Arua. I forget their name. So they do lots of consultancy in Africa as a couple. Then they get that money and then they invest it in lands and properties. They're literally building a city in Arua. Okay? They work together as a couple, right? Sums, the guys who do the snacks, right? It's a couple, right? So I can tell you couple after couple, Crane Crafts and Engravers, the late Sam Munywevo and his wife Anne were running the business as a couple, and they handed it over to a second generation, and it's doing well. So my point is that almost for every one of these scenarios, we can have a bad story,
A good story.
and a good story, okay? What I don't want us to run away from is that there are challenges. Whether you're working with family or not, there are challenges, because also there are people you work with who are not family, who are much worse than family would be. So I think that there's got to be, like he said earlier, I totally agree. There has to be leadership that's clear, and that leadership can make a decision that
will not be challenged.
to say, look, I'm sorry, this is not working. Like I worked in Crane Crafts and Engravers, where I know the story well is actually, that was one of the first places I worked in. Dude, in Crane Crafts and Engravers, the late Sam Munywevo had his father working in the business, had his brothers working in the business. Yes, his father. And his brothers, and his son and daughters, and us guys who were the father, his father and our granddad were best friends. Okay? So we were hired because of that connection. We all came from the same village here in Machindi, Lukuli Nanganda. But let me tell you, you don't bring that stuff in the office. He would eat you alive, whether you're his dad or brother, or like there was absolute clear leadership and direction. And the business worked and is still working. So I feel like the conundrum, the thing to sort out is who is the leader, like you said earlier.
And maybe if I can add, you see, he tells us something from the point of view of a perfect working situation, where even the spouse is selected through perfect situations. But the majority now, you said we don't generalize, but many now will see a person with a big bum. And you have that one night stand and the woman stays, and that's your wife. And then
you just got,
and eventually, then eventually you ask, now you are asking this person, the feature that attracted you to this person is unable to contribute to the kind of business you are building.
There I am agreeing with you.
So you'll find a lot of us are not doing the due diligence, the way you hear grandfather, etc. So essentially it was well organized. Of you go, vet the family, choose who you're going to marry, take them through the courtship. But is that happening now?
There's no time.
If you got a slave queen from now, when she comes, she wants big wigs, doesn't care where the money is coming
Innocent.
from.
Tell them, because these are the things I tell. These are the things I keep telling them.
We need to go into a break.
Get bumps and then you come to business. You listen.
We're here at Sanga Courts having a conversation about men getting into business with their spouses. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Men. Men.
Welcome back from the break. We are here in the third segment of our show talking about men and business with their spouses and by default, their family. Now, I'll tell you what, the unfortunate thing is that's the way majority of people do meet, yes. There's even somebody who said that a lot of marriages in Uganda start as, are you going to finish that here or at my place? And she says, at your place. Then the next thing you know...
You said that, right?
Yes.
Did you say most, majority, or the ones you know?
A good number. A good number.
Because there's another world where that doesn't quite happen.
He quoted himself.
In reality, and a lot of people's reality, these things are happening. Because, I'm one of those people who is against what I call forced entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is being sold to us. I don't understand this thing of people saying, why don't you start a business for your wife? You cannot start a business for somebody. This doesn't make sense. It's only that person who can start a business and then probably you plug in. But then also the trouble about that, and I stand to be corrected, is are you loaning your wife that money? Are you loaning her your time?
When you talk about are you loaning your wife, you're speaking to a certain degree like it's another entity.
But it is.
Your wife is part of you.
Not where business is concerned.
It is part of you. It's a unit, like I said from the beginning. Your wife is your wife. It is a unit. You understand? It's actually, to a certain degree, it's a business. You have a certain goal. But what I wanted to contribute about something that, I feel like to a certain degree, when doctor is talking, you kind of allude to that working with family does not work, and it's to a certain degree an African thing. When you look at the examples that we are given, and I remember, and all of us know, when they're talking about business communities that work very well, and I love that, Chris has success stories that he has mentioned. Most of the time they mention Asian communities, Israel, Indians Chinese,
Japanese,
Korean.
So I feel like to a certain degree, it's an African thing that, you should not work with your relatives. It is something that is told to us. When you work with your relatives, you always have ulterior motives. You get?
Yeah, but that one, I do agree with you. But you see, first of all, the reason why the Asians and the Jews have been in business for a long time, you cannot teach people what you do not know. Now, a lot of us, we are predominantly agrarian, all right? So, and yet we've shifted away from that, and we are now kind of like in a gray space. Especially the Indian community, and by Indian I include Pakistanis all in, they do business, but they also have very, very strict consequences for messing up the family business. Sometimes it could even cost you your life, because you are not just messing up the family business, you're messing up lineage. Now, what are you going to do to your wife? You're saying that
you are one.
Yeah, you are one. Okay.
It's your one. Okay, Mia, let me defend myself.
Yes, let me defend myself. To pick on what Chris has said, that the example he gave, I guarantee you that were those was that couple black or African for that matter?
African, Ugandan, Baganda.
And the wife
I can tell
fired
you,
the husband and he left.
Oh no! So the one who
wife?
fired.
Yes.
I didn't know which one to talk about. The one who fired was a Kenyan couple.
No, Kenyans,
Right?
Kenyan women are mad.
No, they're not mad.
The
Yeah.
wife
Yeah.
fired
Yeah.
the husband.
Yeah. No. So here's the thing.
And they went home and she cooked.
But can I just say something here real quick? It seems to me that wherever there is a culture of honor, it's very easy to separate things. And I don't think it's actually I want to say 2 or 3 things. I don't think it's because of a certain people group, but when it's dominant, it works. Like for example, you'll find a high culture of honor in India, a high culture of honor in China, a high culture of honor in Japan. I met a family where the MD was a 3rd generation MD. The CEO was a 3rd generation CEO. This company was 60 years old. In fact, I can say Saraya, the guys who make sanitizer,
Yeah.
they are more than 60 years old as a business, right? So what happens as I looked at it, and I got to meet them, the sort of like funding part of the hand washing campaign back in the day when I was a national hand washing coordinator, etc. And so you found that there's been generation after generation passing on CEO-ship. And this is the shocker. The CMO, there was a family that were the chief marketing operations officer that was passing on from generation to generation. The CFO, another family, from generation to generation. So you find in countries like Japan, you can, I think that it's the one which has the oldest business in the world that's 1,000 something years old. Okay? So where there is a high culture of honor, what is set is that when there is a clear leader, you all fall in line.
Yeah.
Yeah? You all fall in line, you all do what the leader says. Which brings me to the second point. Because I think that this thing is not really a thing about husband and wife working together. It's a leadership challenge. Why is it that we have such a problem here in Africa? Is even before you talk husband and wife, we have leadership problems in our society. We have leadership problem of, local council, nation, etc. Okay? Bishop Doug Hayward Mills, who is a church leader, really great leader, written many books, alludes to the fact, the curse of Ham, when Noah had one of his sons laugh at him, and then he cursed his son, cursed Buchanan and all that stuff. A servant of servants shall he be. So there's arguments, no, the blacks are not Canaanites or whatever it is. But it just seems to be that on every continent, you go to Australia, you go to America, you come to Africa, you go anywhere where there are black people, they seem to be somehow settled to the bottom of that society. And when one of them is coming up, instead of celebrating them,
Crabs in a bucket.
yeah, people attack you. I'm sure you have seen it. that the more successful you become seems to be the more enemies you make, not of other people, but from your own people.
True.
That's true.
So it's almost like we attack those of us who succeed instead of saying, Innocent has been successful in business. Teach me. How do you do it? So that I celebrate him as I am learning from him. So when there is no culture of honor, the leadership structure doesn't work, and therefore family, which by itself is meant to be a high culture of honor, so if it's failing at home, it's going to fail in the business.
I agree with you that what usually is a problem is people honoring their commitments and what they say they do, and so that they go ahead. And the problem is, it often happens.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying Africa. Actually, I think the way people run crowds, people run family, everybody would eventually prepare for their children something and then hand them something. And it appears it's something we all tend to want to celebrate. I am for us reaching to where the Fords are and Carnegie, and it's not like you bring all your wives and children, and I would be for us growing business to the extent that the business is strong enough, big enough, that it can be able to be run professionally, and the business generates revenue for everyone else.
Yeah.
And even then, sometimes people simply want to prepare for their children instead of preparing the children. Me, I think once you prepare the children, it will happen naturally. The child will show up, the child will show interest, the child will do the right courses, show value, deliver value,
make contribution,
and they'll be assimilated. But when you get a child and you say, you are my child, you'll come here, you'll see how we do this, then you'll do it by force. Sometimes we make it hard, and also scale becomes hard because you're only looking around you, so you then get limited. Maybe you have engineers only. What about marketing? So it becomes hard to scale, to grow, to bring in partnership, because also if you are doing business with your wife, how do you get partners? Can I be a partner with you in a business where you are with your wife? It becomes quite a bit hard. Yeah. So, and if you cannot bring in partners,
you can't
then it becomes hard to scale. And we need to be able to comfortably agree that whereas we idolize business, it's not for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's actually not sometimes as profitable. People around here work for companies and they're making 7 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million.
Yeah.
The people you see with big saloons sometimes go home either with a debt or they have made maybe 1 million, 2 million.
Yeah.
You find somebody has a school and all they have is either debt or 3 million or 4 million. You see people with restaurants, a good working restaurant. If you're not Cafe Javas or whatever, but if you the normal restaurant that all of us want to go and do, you'll find you have 1 million, 2 million. Yes. Yet, if you sometimes you find you can be a good employee and you invest in yourself, you do more courses, you do no more networking, you pitch yourself higher, you find you earn a lot more money than those guys who are proudly. Yeah, they are proudly, and I have seen people who eventually accept. There is a gentleman that recently came back into employment. Twice he has gone. He went to did chicken, said 10,000 chicken, burnt his fingers, walked on the streets, refusing, I won't go back. So the chicken died, and then went to local chicken now, accepted.
He came back.
Then he came back. Then he went now for coffee. Apparently one of his traders got stolen along the way. Then things became, so now he came back and accepted and said, yes, I did my master's.
Yes,
I'll get a job.
Yes.
And I'll go home. And I won't kill myself. I won't. And sometimes we should make it clear.
You're right. It's not for everyone. Yeah. Absolutely. I totally
So guys, we've reached that point where we do have to give our parting shots. But as we do that, I just want us to just think about one thing. Now, how do you then manage? You've got your issues, because one of the greatest things about not working with your spouse is you go out there, you hustle, you're beaten, kick left, right, and center. Then you come home. She has her issues, you have yours. You put your minds together and you vent. But if you're stuck together at work, then you're stuck together at home. Isn't it exhausting? Your parting shot.
And I'll say my parting shots by talking about a society of winging it. Like the problem that we have today is that we wing it a lot. You met in Bandali Rise, and you, like the doctor alluded to, you liked the behind, and you got married.
And decided to take it forward.
And along the way, you discover that this is not my person. That verse, and I hope I'm quoting it correctly, he who finds a wife, it's a process of finding. The processing
finds a good wife.
Finds a good wife.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Finds a good thing.
And gains favor in the sight of God.
Yeah.
Not a good wife.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Yeah.
The process of finding a wife is community. It is everything in between the two individuals. The whole idea of you having a wife, having a husband, is that you have one goal. You should be able to come together and work together. The mere fact that we're having this conversation is just so wrong. The mindset should change. You should work with your wife. You should work with your husband. If it is forced, let it be forced. Why are we having conversations about Asian communities that have done this successfully, and we cannot do it. It's my parting shot.
Innocent, your parting shot.
I believe business should be led totally to be about business. Business should be because you have chosen to work with somebody on something you both want to work towards. Not simply because we sleep together, then we should go and work together. So that's one. Then two is, if we have chosen that's going to be our path, and I really adore those who are able to do it, if you have chosen that's going to be your path, then the same way we select partners, because when we're selecting, I believe in partnerships. I have many partners that I deal with. If you're going to deal with a partner, you select them. You don't just, I cannot come here and meet and say, Peter, why don't we start this? I must see that Peter wants to do that. I come to them, I vet them. How is their character? How do they handle their money? What happens when they are high? Can I be able to deal with it? When they are hungry and we talk, So if I can, that's how we select partners, because you're looking for somebody who has some value they're adding to you. Yeah. So if you have chosen that you're going to work with your wife, you had better start early and select that wife based on that. Of this person is hardworking. If you want to do restaurants, maybe she likes cooking. She has a good taste. She can manage people. I see how she deals with the maids. Maybe she'll deal properly with the and then once you know all that, then you can go ahead and marry. But if you are going to go to when you allow your eyes to read you, then you have to have somebody good flower at home, buy that person a nice car, and take her, make her happy, get her enough maids, and then go and hustle. Do the business on your own, and let the woman enjoy you,
the benefits.
and enjoy. They say happy wife.
Oh, happy life. Chris, awesome. Your parting shot.
Thanks. I really liked this conversation because within it have come a number of realities that one needs to put into consideration. I totally agree with the whole thing of not everyone is cut out for business. Some of us are cut out for employment, others are cut out for business. It's sort of like you're riding a different animal. It's not a horse. It's something else, all right? So having sorted that out, I think that it's absolutely important for us to have the separation principle. There's a great book by Moses Mukisa called Essential Practices for Healthy Church Finances. He wrote it for churches. But what's interesting is that most business people have picked the book up and it's helped a lot. One of the things he says is that you need to run a business like a church and run the church like a business. And this is what he means. That the business needs to have the integrity and truth of the church. But the church needs to run on principles and a certain structure, like the way you would do it in business. That it's the only way to run it well, with the right heart and with the right hands. Okay, so that's a good book that I would recommend that you look up. It's in many bookshops. Essential Practices for Healthy Church Finances. Good book to read. But I the more we talk about this, is the more examples of Ugandan family businesses that keep on coming up that are successful. Quality Supermarket. It's a couple that's running that business, and I think Quality Supermarket is successful. I've mentioned others before. What I want to say is this. There is a possibility, a real possibility, of a couple running business together and doing it well. But for all the success stories, there are also horror stories, which Innocent has talked about, which are true. Yeah. Like mad husband, mad wife, they every day they come and say, Mpayo million now. Mpayo, they keep on drawing out. It's like it's your back, it's your ATM, it's your wallet or ATM instead of a business. So there's a mixture of all that. What I would like to end with is to say that I agree with Innocent that if we are going to do business together as a couple, let it be because there is a business type of contribution that's being made in the business. And let's learn from other businesses all over the world. The Sam Walton story is a really good one. Walmart. Yeah. He set up the business, great supermarket, gone global and all that. But even when he was giving inheritance, it was to the kids and spouse at the board level. So they are shareholders, they are professionals running the business, but they're able to decide at the director level. But that's like a very mature business. And that's not where we start business from. We start from 2 of you or 3 of you pushing this, that, and that, and to allow the business to grow. I feel that every business should be allowed to start where you start. If you start with your spouse, like my little story I told you, I even taught co in a class with the school. But the point is that you start where you start, but with an intention, with clarity on who the leader is, and whoever is not the leader and is not making a significant contribution should step aside for there to be clear leadership and growth of the business. It's possible to work as a couple, but don't force it.
Okay, so you heard it from us as men this evening. We hope you're keeping safe. We're going to see you next week, same place, same time, because you don't want to be anywhere. So make sure you do not start a business with your wife. That's my advice.